He stood alone in the dust, a German shepherd with a twisted leg, trembling under the weight of every whisper in the crowd. Not a single hand went up, not one. Broken, they called him. Unfixable, a burden. The auctioneer sighed, gavel raised, seconds from closing the bid on a life deemed worthless, until a man no one had noticed lifted his hand. No words, no hesitation, just a single, silent gesture that would unravel a past neither of them could outrun. The man wore a faded leather jacket, his face shadowed beneath the brim of a worn-out hat. He didn't look like a hero. He looked like someone who knew what it meant to be discarded. When the gavel fell, the crowd murmured, "Why him? Why this dog?" But the man didn't answer. He knelt in the dirt, eye level with the trembling shepherd, and did something no one else had bothered with. He waited. The dog didn't growl, didn't flinch, just stared, his amber eyes flickering with something between fear and recognition. Then slowly the dog leaned forward and pressed his forehead against the man's palm, as if he'd been waiting for him. The road home was silent. The man, Garrett, drove with one hand on the wheel, the other resting on the dog's shoulder. The shepherd, now named Kaiser, sat stiff, his body coiled tight with the memory of hands that had only ever hurt. Garrett's cabin sat at the edge of nowhere, a place where the wind carried more secrets than people. He didn't speak as he carried Kaiser inside, didn't force comfort where it wasn't wanted. He just lit a fire, set down a bowl of warm broth, and sat on the floor beside him. Not too close, just there. That first night, Kaiser didn't sleep. He watched, every creak of the house, every shift of Garrett's breath. But by dawn, exhaustion won, and he curled at the foot of the bed, his body inches from the man who hadn't asked for a single thing in return. The wounds ran deeper than bone. Garrett found them by accident. Burn marks beneath Kaiser's fur, scars shaped like deliberate lines. Not from fights, from tools. His stomach turned. He'd seen this before. Not on a dog, on men. That night he dug through an old footlocker buried in the back of his closet. Dog tags, a folded photo of a military K-9 unit, a name scrawled on a receipt, Vance Crow. A man Garrett had once known, a man who'd built his fortune on the backs of things he broke. Kaiser whined softly, nosing at the photo. Garrett's hands stilled. "You knew him too, didn't you?" The past didn't stay buried. They drove to the old Crow Ranch at dawn, the place where Garrett had once worked, and where he'd walked away, ignoring the muffled barks from locked sheds. Kaiser moved like a ghost through the overgrown fields, his nose leading them to a patch of disturbed earth. Garrett dug until his fingers hit metal, a rusted box filled with ledgers, photos, and a list of buyers. One name stood out, his own, not as a buyer, as a witness. Kaiser's growl was low, vicious. Not at Garrett. At the shadow stepping from the barn, a man with a rifle and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Been a long time, Garrett." Vance Crow. "Some reckonings don't need bullets." Garrett didn't reach for a weapon. He reached for his phone, and the sheriff's number he'd dialed before they ever left the cabin. Crow laughed. "You really think they'll believe you?" Then Kaiser stepped forward, his hackles raised, his teeth bared, not in fear, but in fury. Crow's smile faltered. "That's impossible. That dog's supposed to be dead," Garrett finished softly. "Yeah, a lot of things were supposed to be." Sirens cut through the morning air. By winter, the Crow Ranch was razed to the ground. Garrett and Kaiser moved north, where the land was wild and the snow covered old scars. The cabin they built had no locks, no chains, just a porch where Kaiser slept in the sun, his bad legs stretched out, his breathing easy. Garrett never told the full story. Some truths didn't need words, but sometimes when the wind howled just right, Kaiser would lift his head and stare into the trees, as if listening for ghosts. Garrett would set a hand on his back, and the dog would lean into him, warm and alive, as if to say, "We're still here, and that's enough."